Welcome to tonight's edition of Say Brother. I'm Dolores Handy. One of the ongoing international news stories of the last several years is that of North Korea and whether or not it has the bomb, a commonly used euphemism for nuclear weapons capability. North Korea is one of the last bastions of Soviet-style communism. It remains a communist stronghold long after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Tonight, Say Brother takes a look inside the Society of the Democratic People's Republic of North Korea in this installment of our international series, an African American's Journal. Correspondent Andrew P. Jones traveled throughout the northern half of the Korean peninsula as part of a people-to-people study tour.
Three main reasons why our society was successful in the last 45 years is that we had a unity, firstly. Secondly, the people were hardworking, and we had a good idea.
I just would like to call upon the U.S. to allow the people of the world to live in peace, to allow the Korean people to live in peace.
In Pyongyang, the capital of North Korea, the eastern morning sun shines on the buildings downtown, some old, others new. Children march to school as the city awakens slowly and the people here prepare to face the day.
What were the children singing?
I think they were singing one of the revolutionary songs composed during the anti-Japanese Revolutionary War. Actually, the guerrillas composed many songs, and the content of the song reads that the coward, you may go if you like, but we'll stay here forever, holding high the banner of revolution, something like that.
이제 시기에 저는 흑인들을 많이 보기도 했거니와 심리학자를 이제 죽이기도 했고 또 포로도 했습니다. During the wartime, I saw many black men. When I say like this, don't be angry. Clear? In fact, I killed some black men, and I also captured some black men. In fact.
I came to this country with the largest delegation of Americans to visit the Democratic People's Republic of Korea since the Korean War. The group was composed of political activists, lawyers, students, journalists, and clergy. The idea was for those of us from the West to get acquainted with our counterparts in the East, come together with a consensus on the reunification of Korea, and make a statement against the possible outbreak of a nuclear war.
We wanted to organize a delegation that was reflective of the progressive movement in the United States and would be respectful too and be able to show solidarity to the Koreans.
Quite honored to be here participating in this here very important conference for the reunification of Korea and the getting of the USA out of South Korea.
For me, this is a great experience. I mean, I will go back to the United States and I will be able to discuss with young Americans in a very intelligent manner what the issues are that concern the Korean people.
During our stay, we would travel by bus, by train, and by air to see the land and meet the people of this nation. We would meet the Korean people formally and informally, make speeches, hold casual conversations, dine together, and dance together. Ours would be a meeting of hearts and minds from opposite corners of the world.
The blacks in America, they are humiliated, oppressed, exploited by the white imperialists. If American progressive people, including black Americans, are awakened more and more, to my mind, they will achieve their goal and purpose. So, at present, to my mind, what is most important task for progressive journalists, including Andrew Jones and other writers and journalists, correspondents, is to awaken the people consciously and purposefully.
Like my distinguished comrades, I too have only been here a few days. I feel, however, that this country is my home, because in the Korean eyes, in the eyes of the Korean people, I see a love of humanity that I can only hope for in my own country. I am a black man. My skin is the color of the summer earth, the color of the bark of the tree, of the night, the full moon, and the dancing stars.
No, see, this is like a hip-hop interpretation of the joint. You know, like we've been down with this thing for like a week, right? And my thing is that, you know, like when socialists talk about socialism, they always talk about when Marx farted and when Lenin had to go to the bathroom and all this kind of stuff. And so, like, the deal, particularly for the people and the people of color, is to, like, break all this stuff down into hip-hop boogaloo, you know, the language of the 21st century and beyond, you know, like the blood on the street thing, and then make it kind of, you know, happening so that people can, you know, relate to the get down part of it rather than the high pie in the sky, you know, Russian, Korean theoretical part of it. And so, like, you know, when we can break it down and explain it to the masses, man, it'd be bad, it'd be live, it'd be happening.
Even though you could say most of us were sympathetic with the North Korean people, we were still queasy when we arrived. I expected to meet a rigid people, firmly indoctrinated into communism, firm also in their hatred of the West. But what I found, what I saw and heard during my 3 weeks here, was so radically different from what I expected that these few pages of my journal, an African American's journal, can hardly convey our surprise.
What it means to me is discovering a whole new reality. Before coming to North Korea, I had been bombarded, and I was concerned about this notion that this country, it's a backward country, a country where everybody's mind is controlled, a country where there's no creativity, a country where people can't think for themselves, where there's a cult of the personality, a country where everybody's repressed and living conditions are very, very terrible. So coming here and seeing the reality as I perceive it means that there's something very different, something very new taking place here, something from which we can learn a lot. Certainly, I don't think that any of us in the United States want to live like here. You know, this is not our lifestyle. I mean, this is not our tradition. This is not our history. But I think that on matters of substance, there is a hell of a lot that we can learn from a country like this.
North Korea is the most staunchly communist country in the world. For 4 decades, it's been perceived in the West as a closed society. But up close, it takes on a different face, the open face of the North Korean people.
In fact, to my mind, American people have a good tradition. May Day, the International Workers' Day, May Day, was originally born in America, in Chicago, correct? Correct. American people demonstrated the revolutionary spirit at that time to the world. This is the example for the world people, how to struggle.
The Koreans say the individual is at the center of society. They say that the greatness of a nation can be measured by the extent to which it cares for its people, particularly the children. people appear to you? Do people appear repressed? Or?
No, they're very relaxed, at ease, leisurely pace, children playing everywhere, on the countryside, in the streets. Look at them. Wonderful.
In Korea, as in most communist countries, education is free.
Hello, good morning. I'm me. Are you Bill Jones? Yes, I am. How are you? Fine, thanks. How is Ellen? She's very well, thanks. Good afternoon, Mr. Green. Good evening, Mrs. Brown. How are you this evening? Good night, Pam. Goodbye, Jones. See you tomorrow.
We're very people conscious. Very people conscious.
How can you tell?
You just look around. I mean, everywhere there's an image of, you know, a worker, a farmer, you know, women. Women are in every single image that I see displayed, which tells me that women have a very important role in society. And it's just ordinary people in very grand kind of situations.
This woman is in charge of this medical facility, one of several in the country devoted to women's health care. North Koreans say their infant mortality rates are among the lowest in the third world.
And as all of you know, the dental hygiene is very important for pregnant women. And of course, some women are in hospital just to give birth to their babies. But in that case, if they have some problem, in that case, they also come to this place and are treated free of charge.
Stretching 7 miles across the mouth of the Taedong River and named the West Sea Barrage by the Koreans, the world's longest dam separates fresh water on the right from salt water on the left. It was built by soldiers whom the Koreans say must be kept mobilized because of the constant threat of war.
About 30,000 soldiers were mobilized.
What's the function here? What does it do?
The function of this varies are four. First, we can utilize the fresh water for the irrigation of agriculture. We can collect vast water here and supply this water to the paddy field and non-paddy field.
Hoping to co-host the 1998 Olympics with their counterparts in the South, the Koreans have built lavish sports facilities in the capital city. Now, young athletes hone their skills in sports like swimming, table tennis, track, and field. There is a saying in the East that you can make a man work, but you can't make him sing. As for training in the arts, well, musicians have a way of speaking for themselves. Little is known in the West about the Korean War against the Japanese, but for 36 years, Korean revolutionaries fought a war against Japanese colonizers here in the mountains up near the Manchurian border.
It was a difficult struggle. In the wintertime, there were many casualties, many people froze, food was hard to come by, but the Koreans persisted, and they persist today.
What is it?
Slogans. Compatriots, let's fight to establish the free Korea until the defeat of Japanese Imperium.
Now that area is sprinkled with monuments that commemorate famous battles and celebrate September 8, 1945, the year the Japanese were finally defeated. This cemetery, built on a mountain overlooking Pyongyang, is a testament to the sacrifices made by the Korean people in their long war against the Japanese. It is the silence here, the faces of the living mingling with those of the dead, that speak for the Korean men and women who paid the ultimate price for victory.
In this room, you will see how the U.S. imperialists occupied South Korea and committed war provocations against North Korea. As you see in these pictures, on September 8th, 1945, the U.S. imperialists occupied South Korea under the name of disarmament of the Japanese army, which was defeated in the Second World War. So from that time on, our country has been divided into two parts, North and South.
The Korean War was billed in the United States as a police action, but for the Koreans, it was a fight for their homeland and a fight for their lives.
제가 직접 이제 쏴봐도 미국 놈들은 우리보다 체통이 크기 때문에 그저 겨누어 쏘기만 하면 잘 맞아 쓰러집니다. At that time, black men belonged to U.S. Army. Clear? Therefore, we regard, though he's black or white, we regard them American aggressors. We fought with rifles, clear? Rifles. So we shot the enemy. When we liberated Daejeon, the battle was very fierce, and both sides are very near. We shot with light machine gun, automatic guns, rifles. We shot. So I think by the bullets, black man was killed.
Estimates are that over 3 million Korean military personnel and civilians lost their lives during the short but savagely fought Korean military conflict. Like every one of the other urban areas in North Korea, Pyongyang, the capital city, was completely destroyed by American warplanes and fighting on the ground.
The U.S. imperialists attempted to bring the Korean people to their knees by perpetrating the most atrocious and barbarous bombing never known in war history of the world.
What's amazing here is that in the DPRK, they have been able to reconstruct their country basically with their own resources and their own expertise. Comparing that to my understanding of the South, where the dependence and reliance on the multinationals have been very, very substantial. And if they departed suddenly, you could have a collapse. And so for a long term, the situation here is obviously much more stable.
We rebuilt this city only for 40 years because in 1950, this city was utterly destroyed.
By who?
By the war. By the war.
Since the war, the Koreans have built new housing, roads, bridges, hospitals, and dams, embarking on massive construction projects, sometimes erecting whole streets at a time.
This is Cholima Street. Cholima Street.
Cholima Street?
Cholima Street. It was built in 1970. And that is the People's Cultural Hall, Palace. People's Cultural Palace.
The Korean society is built upon the Juche Idea, an idea that stresses self-reliance and self-determination, a philosophy that places the individual at the center of a tightly organized collective. Loosely translated, it means one for all and all for one.
Man, I'm talking about school is in and there's the bell. We heard the bell, we saw the bell, we danced with the bell, we experienced the bell. The bell is it. Juche is what's happening on this planet, y'all.
Our people are united formally around the party and the leader. And our people rose like one man to rebuild this city and other cities of the country.
Now, Pyongyang is a showpiece in the communist world, with wide tree-lined streets, neon lights that brighten the city at night, an attractive subway system, and topped off at 105 stories, what will soon be the world's tallest hotel. North Korea even has a movie industry that has a long tradition and is still growing.
시작! 너 정신 나갔니?
Cut! Just generally, I think I've been impressed by how magnificent the rebuilding is, because I don't quite know what I expected, but I didn't expect the wide streets, the large number of houses, the building program, and the general, I think, well-being of the people. Of course, in 5 days, one doesn't get to see everything. But certainly, everything that we've seen so far, I think, has been very impressive. And
what about genuine, though? What about, I mean, do you think what you've seen so far has been genuine, real?
Well, that's of course what we keep on wondering. And I know that when I walked around the hotel and went into some of the more modest buildings which are being torn down, it looked very poor by American standards. But then this was not America 45 years ago. I think what they've achieved, even if this is superficial, is magnificent.
The fighting ended here at an armistice that was negotiated between the Koreans and the Americans. The first time the Americans had been drawn to the table by an enemy to seek a surrender that was conditional.
Displays in this museum show evidence of the Cold War not presented to the American people. Captured planes, a replica of the Pueblo, and an intact helicopter speak of espionage activity that continued long after the Korean War ended.
Here, these are the fighters of the U.S. Imperial Salvation Army, which was shot down by us after the Korean War in 1964.
The Koreans say the Vietnam War fought just to the south. The use of the bomb by the United States military against Japan and the massive number of nuclear weapons and troops stationed in South Korea are the reasons why they must remain prepared for nuclear war. Perhaps more than anything else, the most striking symbols in Korea are those of this man, Kim Il-sung, the undisputed leader of the Korean people.
If people unite formally around the party and the leader, they can do everything.
The great leader was born on April 15, 1912, and spent his childhood here. And his revolutionary family had lived for generations. The middle picture is the great leader, Comrade Kim Il-sung, entered the age of 13.
We need all this, firstly, because we really respect, our leader, and secondly, because it is necessary for the unity of the society, to educate the people, what their leader is.
Critics in the West call him a dictator, but to the Korean people, he is no different from a Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, John Kennedy, or the British royal family, someone whose family symbolizes the enormous sacrifices made by people trying to build a nation. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea is a nation which has had to live with the scars left over from war. The longest is the 38th parallel, a demilitarized zone that stretches 250 kilometers across the width of the Korean peninsula.
It runs through the buildings and it turns to the south at that camera post, and then it goes down to the south to that forest, and it goes to the north again.
북쪽이 저쪽이고 남쪽이 저쪽이야.
So it means that this part of area is north and that part is south.
It's also ironic that the black troops who come to this Korean border to protect somebody's interests, when they get back home, still face racism, discrimination, denial of opportunity in America. And I don't know who defends them, which troops they have to defend them. We need some troops in America defending Americans.
I think that the irony is that when the U.S. claims to defend democracy, they certainly can't say that they're defending democracy in a military dictatorship in South Korea. When they say that they're defending freedom, they certainly can't talk about freedom in terms of the great majority of black and oppressed people in the United States that are really not free to enjoy the kind of life that they need to. And I think that, as Wilhelm said, it's a very clear indication of the fact that billions of dollars of profit are used to prop up dictatorships, when that money used to keep these troops stationed here would be better served developing areas of the United States that are in need of development, providing development funds for the rest of the world, basically supporting life rather than supporting military occupation. So I am in great and deep solidarity with the Korean people in their desire to reunify their country, and in the understanding that that cannot happen until the U.S. military presence is gone.
If they sit idly, we don't know about Korea. If there is nuclear bombs exploded or not, we don't know. In this case, okay. In that case, only the sacrifice. Who will be sacrificed? Only the Korean nation. So we oppose. When there is the war, only the Korean people will be sacrificed. Right. Other big countries will sit idly. In this case, why North and South, one nation must fight? Don't stop the fighting. Let's make peace. So our government proposed to South Korea, let's take non-aggression declaration. North will not attack South, and South will not attack. This declaration should be published in the world. First, then America, we propose, let's make peace treaty of peace. Don't attack each other. Will not interfere your internal affairs. You see, don't interfere our internal affairs.
The issue closest to the hearts of the Korean people is reunification. In the North, rallies for reunification are sanctioned and actually promoted by the DPRK government, which is seeking to reunite some of the 2 million families separated by the war.
For 40 years, the separated family members didn't exchange any letters to their family members.
It means that Korea is one, and the North and South people are the same homogeneous nation.
It is here in the northern part of this country, atop Mount Paektu Song, that the current revolution of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea had its beginnings. It is here also that our journey to this great nation comes to an end.
We've seen what the Korean people have built since the revolution, but here you get the feeling of what it really took, the struggle that it took to win the victory, to be able to build the country that they built. It's a very moving experience.
I have left you then with these few pages from an African American's journal. Portraits of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, a people who are supposed to be our enemy, but who treated me and those like me as their friends.
There are no artificial boundaries from such a elevated place as here. Korea is truly a beautiful place, and from this wondrous mountain, they have the right for self-determination. They have the right to be free. They have the right to be one nation and one people.
This is Andrew P. Jones reporting from the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Josana Hanada, peace.